Buried in darkness for decades, a Nazi World War II lab has finally been uncovered, and what lay inside is more terrifying than anyone imagined. Hidden chambers, twisted experiments, and secrets meant to die with the Third Reich now see the light of day. The question that chills everyone is simple. What exactly were they creating down there, and why was it hidden so carefully? Stay with us to know the chilling details. The spark of discovery. In the early years of the 21st century, historians and treasure hunters in Poland stumbled upon something extraordinary. A network of tunnels, long buried and forgotten, began to reveal itself. Some were uncovered by chance, when farmers digging foundations hit walls that had not seen sunlight in decades. Others came from whispers of local legends, stories passed down that spoke of hidden passageways beneath the streets and forests. Each discovery carried a strange weight, as if the earth itself was holding a secret it did not wish to release. During the final years of Nazi Germany, these tunnels were no accident. Entire complexes were deliberately constructed beneath ordinary buildings, concealed from the world above. The Führer bunker, beneath Berlin's Reich Chancellery, is the most notorious. Above ground, Berlin was a city in ruins, fire and smoke clawing at every street. Inside, men in uniforms moved with purpose through reinforced concrete corridors. The ceilings were meters thick, built to withstand the heaviest bombing. And yet, the ordinary eye saw nothing. To the world above, it was just another building. But below, the war's fate was being decided in shadowed chambers. What makes these discoveries so chilling is the secrecy they represent. If an entire command center, complete with strategy rooms and escape routes, could remain hidden beneath a hotel or a government building, how many other networks of terror might still lie buried across Europe, waiting to be found? These tunnels in Poland cracked open a door to Hitler's hidden world, and what lay inside would chill the blood of anyone who dared to follow its path. Hitler's underground empire. When Adolf Hitler rose to power in 1933, the Third Reich set about reshaping Europe, not only above ground, but also beneath it. The world remembers the tanks, the armies, the bombed cities. Yet hidden from sight, another empire was being built. It was an empire carved into mountains, dug under palaces, and laid out in blueprints for a future that, if realized, would have darkened Europe forever. At the same time, a different kind of theft was carried out in plain view. Jewish families were stripped not only of their rights and homes, but of their very history. Businesses, heirlooms, and art collections were seized. Priceless works by masters like Rembrandt, Vermeer, and Klimt vanished into Nazi vaults. Entire libraries were emptied, religious artifacts taken, and family treasures scattered. For Hitler, this was not just greed, it was part of a vision. He dreamed of creating the Führer Museum in Linz, Austria, a grand gallery that would house the greatest art of Europe, stolen and displayed as if it had always belonged to him. To mask the theft, units like the Kunstschutz claimed to be protecting cultural heritage during wartime. In truth, they were looters with official papers, stripping occupied lands of their treasures while cities burned. The Allies eventually fought back with their own unusual army, the Monuments Men. These scholars, curators, and architects risked their lives at the front lines to track stolen works and return them to their rightful owners. Thousands of paintings and sculptures were recovered from castles, salt mines, and tunnels. Yet countless pieces remain missing to this day, lost in the chaos of war or still hidden in secret caches. While Europe's cultural wealth was looted, the Nazis also poured immense resources into the ground itself. Hitler became obsessed with bunkers, tunnels, and subterranean cities. These were not mere shelters. They were designed as underground worlds meant to outlast bombs and even the war itself. In the forests of Poland, the Wolf's Lair became Hitler's forward headquarters. It was here, in 1944, that Klaus von Stauffenberg placed a bomb in an attempt to assassinate him. The explosion shook the compound, killing several, but Hitler survived. The thick, reinforced walls and underground chambers had done their job. Further south, in the Owl Mountains of Lower Silesia, workers carved out something far larger. Project Reese, meaning giant, was a network of vast tunnels and chambers begun in 1943. No documents survive to clearly state its purpose. Some believe it was intended as a new Führer headquarters. Others suggest underground arms factories or even atomic research facilities. The sheer scale of the work remains staggering. Blueprints reveal plans for hospitals, factories, living quarters, and command centers, all deep beneath the earth. Construction was carried out by forced laborers and concentration camp prisoners, many of whom perished in the darkness, their bodies buried within the very walls they built. The vision was clear: an underground Reich, safe from Allied bombs, self-sustaining and hidden from view. As the war neared its end, rumors spread of hidden retreats in the Bavarian Alps. Recent explorations have uncovered evidence of bunkers and supply depots buried deep in the mountains, suggesting the Nazis planned for a last stand beneath the rock. These mountain chambers, stocked with food, weapons, and perhaps even treasure, speak to the same obsession: survival through secrecy and the underground. Each discovery made since the war, whether an abandoned tunnel, a sealed bunker, or a hidden cache, reminds us that the Nazis were preparing for a world that might have continued long after 1945. What makes this legacy so chilling is not only the scale of construction, but the secrecy behind it. Whole cities underground, treasures stolen and hidden, and plans drawn for a future that would have turned Europe into a subterranean fortress. If Hitler prepared whole underground worlds, then what chilling secrets were left behind after the Reich collapsed? Stay with us to know. The Enigma of Project Reese. In the remote Owl Mountains of southwestern Poland, a dark and silent giant lay hidden beneath the forested slopes. Between 1943 and 1945, Nazi Germany initiated an enormous underground construction known as Project Reese, or Giant, a name that barely captured the scale of what was being built. 7 vast tunnel complexes, including Osowka, Soban, and Sokoles, stretched beneath Lower Silesia, an area then under Nazi control and now part of Poland. These tunnels were not ordinary shelters. They were massive, carefully reinforced networks of concrete and stone, stretching for kilometers and hidden so thoroughly that even locals did not know what lay beneath their feet. The purpose of Project Reese remains one of history's enduring enigmas. Some historians suggest that parts of it were intended as headquarters for Hitler himself, a place where the Führer could command battles in safety. Others believe the tunnels were planned as underground factories, sites where advanced weapons could be developed away from Allied bombers. Records are scarce, and the few that survived give only fragments of the truth. One thing is certain: the vision behind these tunnels was monumental, ambitious, and terrifying in its secrecy. The human cost of this project was staggering. Forced laborers, prisoners of war, and concentration camp inmates were drafted to dig, drill, and shape the tunnels. Disease, exhaustion, and malnutrition were constant companions. Men worked until their bodies gave out, their cries muffled by the thick stone walls. Many never saw the surface again. One survivor later recalled, "We were like shadows moving in the dark. No one to watch us, no one to care for us. The mountain consumed us." The tunnels became a graveyard in life as much as in death, a chilling reminder of the cruelty behind the machinery of war. Today, parts of Project Reese, like Osowka, have been partially restored. Tourists walk through corridors where sunlight barely reaches, peering into vast chambers that hint at the scale and ambition of the original project. The air is cool and damp, the silence broken only by footsteps echoing off stone walls. Visitors report a sense of unease, as if the tunnels themselves remember the horrors that built them. But the true terror of Project Reese lies not just in what has been uncovered, but in what might still remain hidden. Rumors persist that as the war drew to its catastrophic end, other underground secrets were buried beneath these tunnels. Treasures or weapons that may never see the light of day. Every exploration raises questions. What was the full purpose of these chambers? What horrors were planned here that history has not yet revealed? Project Reese is more than a network of tunnels. It is a shadow of ambition, cruelty, and secrecy carved into stone. Walking its corridors today, one cannot help but feel the weight of history pressing down, whispering of a time when men in uniform sought to hide their plans beneath the mountains, and of the countless lives crushed in the pursuit of power. But as the war neared its end, another underground secret was said to be hidden beneath the very tunnels of Project Reese, waiting silently to be discovered and waiting to terrify again. The Nazi Gold Train Legend. In the closing months of 1945, as the Third Reich collapsed, whispers of a train heavy with stolen treasures began to spread across Lower Silesia. According to legend, this was no ordinary train. It was said to be filled with gold, jewels, and priceless works of art looted from across Europe, hidden away as the Allies closed in. The story tells that the train vanished near the city of Wałbrzych, disappearing into the labyrinth of tunnels carved into the mountains. Since then, its shadow has lingered, a mystery that refuses to die. The origins of the legend are murky. Some trace it back to the 1970s when accounts first surfaced of a Nazi convoy disappearing without a trace. Others suggest the story had been circulating even earlier, whispered by locals who had seen military trains vanish into the forests, never to emerge again. The tale grew into something larger than rumor, taking on the force of myth. What gave it new life was an extraordinary claim in 2015 when two treasure hunters announced they had used ground-penetrating radar to locate the train. Their words sparked a storm of speculation. For a moment, the world's eyes turned to Wałbrzych, waiting for history to resurface from the soil. Excavations soon followed, drawing in officials, scientists, and treasure seekers. Cameras stood ready to capture the moment when rusted iron doors would open, revealing glittering gold and stolen relics. Yet nothing was found. With each failed attempt, the legend grew darker. Was the gold train a trick of hope? Or was it buried deeper than anyone dared to search? Skeptics dismissed it as fantasy, but others insisted that absence of evidence was not proof of absence. What makes the story so unsettling is not only the thought of riches hidden underground, but what those riches represent. They are the spoils of suffering, ripped from homes, temples, and museums, packed into crates under armed guard. If the gold train exists, it carries not just wealth, but the memory of theft and destruction on an unimaginable scale. Wałbrzych became a magnet for explorers and adventurers, each convinced they might be the one to uncover the truth. Local folklore embraced the tale, and with every passing year, it seemed less a rumor and more an echo of unfinished history. The empty tunnels, the unexplored caverns, the silence of the mountains, all conspire to make the story impossible to forget. The gold train remains elusive, but its power lies in the questions it forces us to ask. What did the Nazis hide in those final desperate days? How much of Europe's stolen past still lies buried beneath the ground? And while the gold train remains a mystery, another underground discovery beneath Warsaw's Wilanów Palace has shed light on a different and equally chilling chapter of Poland's subterranean history. The Wilanów Palace Freemason Tunnel. In 2024, archaeologists working in Warsaw's Mokotów district made a discovery that sent ripples of unease through both historians and the public. Beneath Guchengaj, a historic park once part of the Royal Wilanów estate, a tunnel system emerged from the soil. Hidden just 13 feet below the surface, it was no small passage. Over 200 feet long and constructed in a barrel-vaulted design, the tunnel stood as a silent reminder that the ground beneath Warsaw still guards secrets that refuse to fade. What puzzled researchers was not only the tunnel's size, but its mystery. Its U-shaped structure suggested deliberate planning, built with care and knowledge of architecture that required resources and intent. Yet there were no clear records, no instructions, no simple explanation for why it existed at all. The silence of the archives left room for speculation, and speculation soon took a darker turn. Some historians began to suggest that the tunnel may have served as a meeting place for Freemasons, whose presence in Poland has long carried an air of secrecy. The Wilanów estate, with its connections to nobility and power, would have provided the perfect cover. Within its vaulted stone walls, hidden from the eyes of the city, gatherings could take place away from suspicion. Rituals, strategies, or alliances could be forged in the shadows, their echoes lost in the soil until our century unearthed them once more. For the archaeologists who first stepped inside, the air was damp and heavy. Their lamps cut through darkness that had remained unbroken for generations. Every brick they touched carried the weight of unanswered questions. Who built this tunnel? Why here? And for what purpose? One researcher was reported to have said, "It feels less like we are studying history and more like history is watching us." What makes this tunnel so haunting is not only its construction, but the timing of its revelation. In a city that has already endured centuries of invasion, destruction, and rebuilding, the sudden emergence of a secret passage beneath one of its royal estates adds another layer to Warsaw's already complicated past. It reminds us that beneath the parks, palaces, and streets, a hidden world waits silently, carrying stories that were never meant for the surface. The story didn't end here. Beneath Warsaw's streets lies another hidden passageway, this time beneath the ruins of the Saxon Palace, revealing a different facet of Nazis' underground heritage. The Saxon Palace Tunnel. In 2023, Warsaw once again revealed that its foundations hold more than history written in books. Beneath the ruins of the Saxon Palace, archaeologists uncovered a tunnel stretching 45 meters in length. Buried some 13 feet below the surface, this hidden passage lay dormant for centuries, its silence broken only when careful excavation pierced the earth. The Saxon Palace itself had long been a symbol of Poland's turbulent past. Built in the 17th century as a royal residence, it had witnessed grandeur, decline, and finally destruction during the Second World War. Yet no one expected that beneath its ruins, a secret artery of stone still waited. The discovery of the tunnel forced historians to confront questions that seemed to have no easy answers. The purpose of the tunnel remains cloaked in mystery. Some believe it may have been an escape route, a hidden lifeline for nobles or soldiers to flee danger when war pressed against the palace walls. Others suggest it was a passage for moving goods, soldiers, or perhaps messages too dangerous to carry above ground. Whatever the truth, the tunnel's very existence speaks of a past where survival often depended on what was hidden rather than what was seen. Excavations did not only reveal walls of stone, artifacts were pulled from the soil, fragments of a life once lived in shadows. Each object, whether tool, coin, or shard, added another piece to the puzzle. These small remnants offered proof that the tunnel was more than stone and mortar. It was once alive with footsteps, whispers, and purpose. While the world was processing the existence of this tunnel, another significant discovery awaits beneath the streets of Chelm, promising to reveal secrets that are no less unsettling. The Chelm Chalk Tunnels. Beneath the cobbled streets of Chelm, there is a world that was never meant to be seen by the daylight. Hidden in silence for centuries, this labyrinth of chalk tunnels stretches under the town, a reminder that human survival often depends on what lies below rather than above. The story of these tunnels begins in the 19th century. They were carved not for mystery, but for need. Miners cut into the soft chalk deposits, hauling out the white stone for building and agriculture. Yet with each swing of the pickaxe, they unknowingly created a secret refuge that would later save lives. As history pressed down upon Chelm, the tunnels took on new roles. They became shelters when war and violence threatened the town. In the darkness, families waited out danger, their whispers lost in the echoing chambers. At times, the passages served as escape routes, leading fugitives away from certain death. In quieter years, they were used to store food and supplies, ensuring survival when times grew harsh. Even the architecture seems to tell its own tale. The ceilings curve in smooth arches, the walls glowing faintly in lamplight, casting pale shadows that make the air feel heavy. Walking those narrow corridors today, one cannot escape the thought of those who once fled, prayed, or hid in the very same darkness. As we leave Chelm's underground, another hidden story rises from beneath the streets of Gdansk, and it may be even more unsettling. The Gdansk Medieval Tomb. In 2025, beneath the unassuming site of a former ice cream shop in Gdansk, northern Poland, archaeologists made a discovery that pulled the city back nearly 1,000 years. Hidden just below the surface lay a medieval tomb, untouched by time, its stone slab engraved with the figure of a knight holding a shield. For centuries, thousands had walked above it, never knowing that beneath their feet rested the remains of a man who once shaped the medieval world. The tomb is believed to date back to the 13th or 14th century, a time when Gdansk stood at the crossroads of power and conflict. The knight buried there may have served the Teutonic Knights, the Sobislaw dynasty, or even a German noble house. Each possibility speaks to the city's turbulent history, when shifting alliances and brutal wars decided who controlled the Baltic coast. Whoever he was, his grave was not marked by accident. It was carved with respect, a reminder that this man once carried authority, perhaps even fear, in life. The discovery has become more than just another archaeological find. It is a door into a forgotten chapter of Gdansk, where medieval battles, dynastic struggles, and crusading orders all left their mark. To look upon the knight's tombstone today is to stand face to face with the ghosts of that era, to feel how the weight of history still lingers in the soil of the city. One question still lingers. What was the main motive behind Hitler's underground empire? The Vault of Shadows. The Nazis built their underground empire with a paranoia that bordered on obsession. Reinforced gates, gas-proof corridors, and bulkheads strong enough to resist bombs turned these places into fortresses of silence. In Berlin, the Vorbunker and Führerbunker were guarded by such barriers, hiding Hitler and his closest circle as the world above crumbled. But what lay deeper was even more unsettling. Underground laboratories and hidden factories like the site known as Weingut 3 were prepared for the production of advanced aircraft. Survivors spoke of experiments and forbidden projects buried away from prying eyes. Much remained speculation because, as the Allies advanced, the Nazis set fire to their own secrets. Hitler's Nero decree ordered destruction on a vast scale, wiping away documents that might have revealed the true purpose of these vaults. Yet shadows linger. In Project Reese, tunnels remain blocked, collapsed, or sealed. Maps end abruptly where stone walls begin. Excavators whisper that entire sections may have never been entered since the war. Each hidden passage raises the same fear. What was left behind in the darkness, waiting to be uncovered? What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments.